Why don't we start over with, go ahead and give us a little history on DNA. This is Suzanna Ryan.
So yeah, you had mentioned that you thought it was 1992. It's actually right around 85, 86 time period when it was first used. DNA analysis was first used to identify a person in the UK, and that person actually is up for parole pretty soon. I just read a news article about that. That's
How fun, huh?
But and then in the United States, the first time it was used in a criminal case, and it was tried in Florida in 1987. So that was a different type of testing. That type of testing, you would not have been able to get a profile like what we're doing now, collecting. There's no way, because you needed a large amount of non-degraded DNA, so DNA that had not been broken down. And this, we would anticipate it is. It's been a long amount of time, but that doesn't mean that we can't get results, because the way the testing is done now, we're just looking at short segments of DNA. So even if it's broken up in certain places, the DNA strand, it might not be broken in the place that we need to make the copies.
I see.
So we use a process called
the
PCR.
state bar years ago invited I guess he was the first murderer that was let out.
Innocence.
And he came and spoke. He was a man of color, as I remember. Came from back east. He was fascinating.
Yeah.
To hear him.
Yeah.
He'd spent a number of years
Oh, yeah.
death row or whatever.
Yeah.
And was it DNA that got
Yeah, it was
him?
DNA. It was in the 90s, I think. It's been a while,
Okay.
quite a long time ago.
So DNA was pretty new back
Yeah,
then.
Yeah.
There have been other times where I ran into it later, but I mean, it was just new. So,
Yeah, sure.
So this is
One
exciting.
was I was telling you on that child of Mountain Meadows, where they made my wife give a DNA sample
Yeah.
because they wondered if the 17 children. You remember Mountain Meadows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, President Hinckley took a lot of heat for that,
And I didn't.
others,
I
of
wasn't
course.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, Brigham took a lot more heat. But anyway, back in the old days.
So did John D. Young.
Yeah, John D. Lee took a
John
whole
D.
lot.
Lee took
Yeah, he took more than the heat. At any rate, so my wife's great grandpa was the bishop of the ward that helped kill the parents and then took the kids. So he was the bishop and he farmed them out, 17 children. The federal government wanted them back a year or two later. It was in 59, 2 years later. And there was always this question that Philip Klingensmith, that was her relative's name, kept one of the kids for his second wife, who was the great-great-grandmother of my wife. So my wife had to give a DNA sample
Oh, fascinating.
when her cousin was, when DNA was still in the 90s, I think, when it was still pretty new. She had to give a DNA sample to try to prove the lineage of this daughter.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
who's buried in Cedar City now.
Oh.
And we tracked that thing all over. Just the family story was that there was no birth certificate on this girl. There was no history of her beforehand, and that she was left over from the children since the father had given that to the second wife because she'd lost a child. That was the story, and it was in books and everything. And the church actually sent me on what became a wild goose chase to try to track that down from the family and so on. And we went to these graveyards in Panocha, Nevada, where the second wife was buried.
Oh, I've been to Panocha.
Down
Huh?
Pioche,
Yeah.
he hid out there at that mining town.
Oh my gosh.
Caliente, remember that down there?
Yeah.
And that little corner of Nevada next to the test site. And we went to all those places. Of course, we went to Mountain Meadows and a couple of times. And out of all of it, I came back with the conclusion that, the family says that she didn't really belong to the family, that she was adopted, and that she must have been a child that wasn't returned. Well, it turned out President Hinckley had already authorized DNA testing. It was done through Sorensen Labs.
And Sundance did Sorensen. Yeah.
And they already knew before they sent me on that, because he told them they did it trying to find any children of Joseph Smith that they didn't know about. Okay, from Fawn Brody's book. They did it from that angle, and President Hinckley says, find out whatever you can find out from this DNA. Well, they found out that none of the people that said they were children, including Fawn Brody and Joseph Smith, were right. None of them were his children.
So now I just want to make sure that is the
Yeah,
sample
his sister
from
sister
this.
to, well, she was the the
Stamp.
daughter of Thomas. E.,
Yeah, I
who
mean,
was the
just from this
brother of-
area, I don't know
yeah.
where, I mean, the
So
ink isn't
niece,
gonna
she's a
have the
niece of
DNA. It's,
But we're just hoping that maybe his
His hand came into contact
touched
with
What they found
it.
out
Mhm.
Well,
was,
even
they
he
knew
put
it
his
before they sent me
fingerprints
on the
down
wild
to
goose chase
to
in the
stamp
DNA,
it.
but they
Sure.
wanted me to
It's just
go
kind of
through all
fun.
the
So,
family history.
and
I came
you're
back with the
recording
opposite.
that with
The
your
story
testing,
from the
but we're
family.
recording
Mhm.
it to
No birth
maybe
certificate,
get
no, so
lucky
that-
is what I'm trying to
the
say.
church
Okay,
already knew
great.
that,
Thanks so
this
much.
child
Sure.